All right, we're going to have a guest on, and we're going to talk about what the future holds. Stay tuned. Right after this, get your coffee. Let's go. All right. Good morning. All right. Let me copy paste. Copy and paste is such a neat feature. So there you go. Let's see. Good morning. I hope all is well. It is Friday, May 10th. And the reason for the let me get rid of this windshield here. The reason for the title of chaos is because there's the God of chaos, and his whole intention is to rid you of your hope. And so you got to master the chaos. You just got to, it's striking. Like I had like 3 phone calls this morning of drivers going, hey, it's chaotic. We need help. And I'm happy to help because that's the position I'm in. I'm more of a blessing at home than being in a truck for my family, for my friends, and also for the drivers that in Jeffrey I hope. So anyways, it's Friday. I hope you've been able to manage to avoid tornadoes and flooding this week. I know Tennessee, Missouri, and I think Michigan got slammed pretty good. There was that FedEx facility that got nailed in there in Portage. And you had the Dollar Tree in Marietta, Oklahoma that got nailed. I mean, so, you got to be safe out there. A lot of intense footage of all this stuff out there. So other than that, dispatch has been kind of weird this week. I booked Scorpion on his final load. If you don't know what we're talking about, go to Scorpion's channel. If he shows up in here, I've promoted him before. He's one of these good YouTubers. He's an honest dude. He was good to hang out with, and I think I appear in some video coming up. What else? Had an okay week, but man, when you're trying to run the short game because you're on recap hours or whatever, man, it is tough when you got that one shipper and receiver that keeps you for 8 hours. And there was one point where we were delayed pretty good for 7 pallets, and it's just, man, that's frustrating. I know what that feels like, and it's not great. So Anyways, we'll do some shout outs. We're going to be joined by CDN. The reason being is he went to one of his corporate get-togethers in Nashville, and basically you're going to see what brokerages are doing to prepare for what's coming, and also what they're doing now and what they need to do in the future about cargo theft, and also booking freight, and also dealing with carriers and the technology and the whole 9 yards. So CDN, take your time. I got the big cup of coffee today with the Snorelord mug, and also make sure we got the ground. I did order my own Viking brew. That's the more bolder blend. We'll see what that tastes like soon. So maybe I'll do a giveaway. So with that being said, let's go to the comments. And my name is Nobody is first. Good morning. Desiroki Pam, good morning. Oh, okay. I can handle the truth without any sugarcoating. Well, I don't try not to sugarcoat it, but I also don't try to get in people's faces and say, hey, you suck. Let me turn this light down. This thing's annoying. There's a good middle ground that you can do, that a person can do. It's like, hey, maybe you might not want to do that. That kind of thing. But then some people you just need to slap upside the head and go, you know what? You suck. So here's why, and let me help you at this point. You got to say it with love, right? With love. Like what we do with Jackknife TV all the time. Good morning. Can't wait to hear more good news about trucking and how well the markets are doing. What CDN has got going on is not about the markets per se. It's about navigating through our new reality. And in my opinion, it's not the market rates that are taking people out. It's the to me, it's the cost of the vehicle you're currently driving. The expenses are through the roof. Repairs are through the roof. These new trucks absolutely are horrible, and it's hard to have faith in them, which is why they put these killer warranties on. So he or she with the best warranty wins, as long as you can afford the downtime. Thanks, CPA. So, Jackknife says, FreightWave said flatbed volumes are down 35% from the previous 3 years. Yes, and that's only going to get worse because of commercial property. The price is going up. They're building warehouses. They got nothing to put in them. They're building these big office buildings that no one needs. So commercial construction is down, which is going to affect everything. Jose, good morning. Buck Brown, yo, from Annapolis, Missouri. Where is that? No, I said that wrong. Annapolis, not Annapolis. Forgive me, for I am weak in my language skills, because I like to eat queso. So that should make some people laugh. Buck Brown, what's up? Monday, part 5, remember. Greg Zimmer, good morning. CDNs, give 2 minutes. Yep, we will be here. Is it just my volume, says Tracy? Can't hear. Yes, it is just you. Let's see. This is going to be really interesting, and I don't even work in freight. There you go. Mrs. A giving the support. Morning. Something I do different as far as cost per day is include a fee for having to spend time away from home. I understand that if you're homeless or single, but spending night alone is not free. You can do it however you want, man. As long as you're covering your cost and you got some cushion, you're good to go. Gen Z, in my opinion. Everything that this whole channel should be called, in my opinion. Maybe that's why I'll rename the Snorelord OG channel. In my opinion. IMO. Maybe just Snorelord IMO. That's a good idea. Mrs. A says, good morning, Buck. Cost of operation, Wet Willie. There you go. So far, 50,000 miles trouble-free. I'm hoping I can make it to 150,000 miles without any trouble. That'll mean 100,000 miles trouble-free. Good luck. Mrs. A says, Quazo. is the most important food groups. Unloaded this and then go home. There you go. It's Friday. Go home. So if you're working this weekend, I hope people are being profitable. So while we're waiting on CDN, let's go over some freight rates. Well, let's go over the title of the video, and it'll probably be retitled, but as of right now, currently at 7:14 a.m. Central Time on Friday, May 10th. Oh, I emailed you the link to your Gmail. There, CDN. I titled it Master the Chaos because that's kind of what you have to be able to do. But, anyways, do I need to resend it with another? Do you not have that email set up? I can do it at the other one. You're like me. You got several email accounts. I've got too many. There. We'll try that one. All right. Buck Brown says, I'm. Jack Knife says, good luck. Dave Ever says, good morning. Hope everyone is well. I hope you're well, David. I hope you're okay. We still need to do your interview. I am a slacker. It's just that weekends are I don't know, weekends are difficult for me. And I know that being on the road, you adjusting to all the new stuff as a new CDL holder is a big deal. So we'll get it together one of these days. I'm not the best interviewer, so. All right. Mr. CDN, freight broker, how are you this morning?
Good morning. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Great stuff. So, you know what? I don't like that fan looking behind me there. Give me a second here.
Okay. I don't like anything what it looks like behind me, so I have this this banner thing, which it partially broke. It partially broke, so because I'm lame.
Sorry about that. Got to give you some quality.
All right, that's fine.
So, all right. Well, thanks for having me on the show there.
What would you like to talk about today?
Well, a few things. A couple things we'll touch base on. So, those of you who don't know, I'm going to kind of reveal because it's the brokerage that I work for. So the brokerage I work for is called SPI Logistics. Okay. So they're based out of Canada, but we have offices all around. We have 65 agent offices around the United States and Canada. Some of the agent offices are like myself, where there's one person or 1.5 person to, we have several that are solo agents, but we have several offices that have 2, 4, 6, 8 people. So we got a variety. We got agents all the way across Canada from BC to Quebec. We have agents in Idaho through to Illinois, Texas, Florida, all around. Colorado, Utah. They're all over the place. So we do a thing once a year. It's called Rendezvous. And each year we rotate. 1 year is in Canada, 1 year is in the United States. And there is a thing for qualifying for sales and so forth. But the point of the rendezvous is that we gather. We have some industry information. We have some panels where we had, like on the Friday night, there was an agent panel. So they had some of the top agents there. And if you wanted to be a part of that, you submitted your questions and there was a host to guide through that. And then like Saturday morning, we had a management panel. So we have management there. We got, VP of sales, the president, VP of technology, as a VP of operations for people and operations, Anita Watts. So and James Lemon, our VP of finance. So we have the whole people there. We have questions that were submitted. So you got a chance to listen, and a few other questions added in there. And then we had a special guest, Scott Cornell with Cargo Theft. What's his company called? Cargo Theft Insurance. And we'll get into that in a bit. But, when they talk about surround yourself with successful people, well, that's a weekend. This past weekend in Tennessee was a weekend to surround ourselves with successful people. And part of the purpose of that this past weekend was this past Saturday, which was May the 4th, was the exact 45th anniversary of SPI Logistics, that they've been around for 45 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did
So
not realize that.
yeah. And one of our co-founders, Jim Taggart, he passed away this year, battled to cancer, but Mitch Helton's still around. And Mitch is a super, super smart person, and there's a lot of smart people there. So I wanted to kind of come on and share some stuff that they shared, their insights, their perspectives on the market, talk a fair bit about cargo theft. And they, because we're all independent agents. We have a whole head office. We got, client care team. We've got an accounts payable team. We've got an accounts receivable team. We have Peter, who's our VP for our legal. Like if we have a contract with a customer or there's a claims issues that are complicated, Peter gets involved. So being part of the SPI Logistics as an agent, we have agents that are doing a fair, I'm not going to brag how much they're doing, but SPI in the world of brokeraging in the United States is a top 85 freight brokerage. We fall into the top, we're a top 85. It's in our logo. So the point is, I always keep saying to myself, well, geez, some of these agents have 6-8 people in their team and they do phenomenal business. They could easily be on their own, but why haven't they merged and broke out and gone on their own? Why? People, technology, support. Mm-hmm. They're able to focus on their customers and moving freight. Most of 2023 may have been frustrating for some of the agents, but SPI spent significant time putting things in place because the amount of bad actors out there, bad carriers, was just rampant upon rampant.
Yeah.
And so they had to spend a lot of time on technology, and that includes highway. Love or hate highway, highway's doing a lot of things that no one else is doing, and they're catching a lot of people that no one else is doing. So you may have a perspective that you don't like it. Well, I can do a separate video or a separate call to show you otherwise. And if you sat behind my seat for a day, you would say, oh, now I see why you like highway so much. So
yeah, you definitely get a good glimpse. So
yep. And so the whole summary is that I'll put this caveat. If you're a one truck MC holder and you have your little corridor that you've niched out for yourself, you've got either some great brokers or a direct shipper, and you have good life, meaning you have great contacts, everything, you're getting paid what you feel is your worth, and you have a good system, you get home, etc., on reasonable times, and you feel that what you're doing is good and sustainable, then you're an anomaly, right? If you've set yourself up that way. The points I'm going to bring are particularly for those that bebop the spot market or bebop around from load to load chasing money. That I believe, first and foremost, in 2024 and moving forward, doing things, they specifically said this to message to us, right from our president. If you're saying to yourself, this is how we've always done it, you're stagnant. You're not going to keep up. You have to open your eyes. It's 2024. There's a lot of new ways to get business done. And we have to really open our eyes and be willing to be flexible to these different scenarios. Okay. So if you're just a one carrier right now, and the reason that this comes up, unfortunately, I wish I had the exact details, and maybe Steve, you can interject what you know, but I think Sage has some in here. But there are some new safety fitness determinations coming soon. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring down some capacity, right? It's going to reduce some of the capacity of trucks. So if you get a conditional status because of these new standards, once you get a conditional status, that eliminates 75-80% of the brokers that you can work with until you fixed it, and it can take a couple of years to get off of that status. So it's, as you know, with your inspections and everything else, it's a numbers game. If you have one truck and you have one bad inspection, well, you're failing 100%, right? So the whole point is that right now, our management believes that a price correction is going to be coming. General rule is that the current spot market rates are about 50 cents behind the additional cost that U.S. carriers are incurring, which I think you and I kind of discussed that that's probably somewhat fair.
Yes.
So they feel that right now, just like you guys are saying, the rates aren't where they should be, and there's still too many trucks on the marketplace. So one, there's going to be the new safety fitness determinations is going to bring out some of the carriers. It's going to reduce some of the carriers because it's going to run them out of business that way. Then essentially, we expect that in the coming months, I'm not sure it's going to be exactly this year, but we're going to see some pricing, the rates go back up, which is excellent for you. What you guys want to hear. I can't give you the exact timeline, but all I can tell you, you need to get deep in your relationships. And what I mean is, remember this in sales. People think it's about who you know, but rather, who knows you? I've been on Steve's show. I've been on DIY Semi, and we've discussed this about marketing as a carrier. What can you do? We've brought up many things. You could have a specific channel for your business. You can create a website. You can do email blasts to educate your truck availability, your services. There's a variety. A LinkedIn website. The amount of data that we can scrub from Highway to get a picture about a carrier is pretty significant until you spend time. And the reason I bring that up, in the past 6 weeks, more of my time on a daily basis is wasted. And I'll use the word wasted. I get a load and I need to quote a customer or find a truck for. I don't even post because there's so many bad actors. I have to vet. Like if I'm trying to, even if I'm searching for trucks, I look up, not qualified, bad actor, another bad actor. Just yesterday, I have Cleveland, Ohio, after I get off this call, I got a book. Cleveland, Ohio to Broussard, Louisiana, 53 drive-in. I talked to Steve first. He didn't have any, so then I posted it. First carrier, iffy at best. Second carrier, the message was, this carrier is known to be using an insurance agent that services carriers who double broker freight. So it's just bad actors. Like the other day, I was looking for a carrier. I think I burned through over 25 carriers to find 3 that are qualified for a flatbed load. So that's where my time is going, because these carriers, and there's many things, I can't reveal every little detail about what Highway's telling us, but I can say, and we've talked about this before, if you own your own authority in your one truck and you're using a Gmail, immediately this morning, call Microsoft or Gmail or Google and get yourself a domain email. Number one thing. But there's a consequence to this, though, because if you set yourself up on the FMCSA with a Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo email on the FMCSA, and you have to make an email change, that will put you out of business with a lot of brokers for several months in some cases. When there's an FMCSA change, that's considered high risk of fraud, and there's possibly fraudulent activity going on. So it's negatively looked upon. But
wow.
There's a lot of factors at play. But if you haven't switched that over, and you know this as well, but the Gmails and Outlooks, that's for our personal use, not for business use. And that's pure and simple. I cannot emphasize that enough. Cyber is a big thing. That basically every 20 seconds, there's a cyber breach of some sort in the world, like in North America. We'll get into this in a moment. I want to touch just a little bit about the who knows you versus who you know. Because the most important thing in where is that little book? Hang on, I'll pull it. Actually, it's right there. It's in that spot there. There's a little book of red sails, and in there it says it's not about who you know, but who knows you. So if you have your own authority, go on the internet and type up your carrier's name. How findable are you? So if a broker was to look up, what's your key lanes? What's the lanes you like to run? And type in dry van carriers from that lane to this lane. Are you findable? If you're not, then you need a website. You need hire someone to help you. And the other thing that I can't emphasize enough, I've talked about it before, but deep selling. There is a lot of bad actors out there. And if you're a good carrier, you need to get yourself heard. You need to get yourself so that people know you, so that you stand out above the crowd. And it's really unfortunate, but in certain lanes, like this Cleveland, Ohio to Broussard, Louisiana, I'm working on, almost all the carriers posted are Illinois. So Illinois has a huge amount of bad actor carriers known to double broker, etc. So there it is, little book of red sales. And so my suggestion is, whether you're an owner operator or you are a one carrier MC authority, and you have some good brokers, if you haven't visited them in person, find a way. How can you make that happen? Or if you have to do a Zoom call, and then you can say, well, Rob, I can't get a hold of them. They only work on emails. Okay. What's the biggest opportunity that you'll capture the broker's attention? Your proof of delivery. You take a load, you make the delivery, and you say that you can email them. Hey, email the person. There's an issue with the POD. Can you please call me? Guess what? They're going to call. They're going to call you. So you captured, and then you can say, actually, sorry, the POD is okay. I just had a couple other things I want to go over with you. And that's where you got to find. And then here's another crazy idea. If you're picking up some big warehouse and you're seeing lots of trucks there, and you think that this broker's booking with lots of different carriers, take a piece of paper while you're in the dock and write down those carriers. And then see if you can go to the broker. If there's a way you can check, go back to your broker and saying, check these MCs for me and see what they come up as. If they're legit, if they look like they're shady characters. Some of the other tips, if you have a long haul shipment, unless the carrier tells you up front, but if you have a 2-day trip and the truck that shows up is a day cab, that's a red flag, unless they told you we have a local truck picking up for us. But the point is, you got to find a way. And if you say, well, they only email, okay, so then you have to study how to improve your email skills. There's lots of courses online. Right now, if you're running a truck, whether as an owner operator, as an MC, or you're a broker or broker agent, you took a risk and got into this industry. You bought a truck, or you're a broker agent or broker, and you're trying to move freight, or you bought a truck. Either way, you took a risk. So first and foremost, you have to believe in yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. And you have to find a way to forge relationships. Because remember I said, it's about who knows you. Are you findable? And you got to find a way to stand out above the crowd, because I can tell you there's more bad actors than there is good actors. And so
can I interject here real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
So my thoughts on this, I get a lot of people, and I mentioned this to somebody yesterday, that go, well, relationships don't matter. Okay, so whether you agree with that or not, the ability to create the relationship is important. So even if you create a relationship with a broker or a shipper today, and it only lasts a month, well, that covers you for the month. So if you have the skill set to do it, then, so don't ever give up the hope that relationships don't work. And, they're not going to go to golf with you or anything like that. But at the same time, if you have the skill set to create a relationship, then when they fall apart, you can just rebuild again. Okay.
But where this deep, when you say, well, what do you mean by relationships? This is where you get into deeper with them. You talk to them about their freight. Let's say you find out that you're booking some standard loads off the load boards, but maybe you found out that they moved some containers, intermodal rail containers, and they've been struggling with the drayage side of it. So it's coming in by rail, but the rail provider doesn't have enough capacity. There's a lot of areas in the United States that I can tell you that when I've booked intermodal in the past, sometimes it took me a week to get a container, not because there wasn't an available container, because they didn't have an available driver. So I'm not saying that that's the be all. I'm just using it as an example that you found this out and you started thinking about, okay, well, how much are you paying? How many loads are you doing? Does this turn into an opportunity that you realize, geez, if I got a chassis, I can do some business for you? Or there's a lane that you didn't realize they're doing freight. Like freight forwarders are a great source for freight because they're bringing freight in and out of ports and it has to get inland. So you got to have brokers that have connections to freight forwarders and have connections with freight forwarders. There's no right, there's no wrong, but ultimately you want it so that when a broker gets a project, that you're top of mind. You're going to be emailed on there like, hey Steve, we're going to have this project. Can you get this many trucks? Right? Are you responsive to that? As you build a relationship, it has to be to that point where there's a bit of a shared risk. You both understood each other. You understand when they call you about this load, you understand their challenges and their customers' expectations. And then you start to show them and they take a risk on you where, example, because they built a relationship and you call them up and tell them this problem, they're going to guarantee that they're going to pay you your detention time. But they may or may not collect it from the customer, but they're going to look after you. Right? So you got to find a way. There's always a way. And so part of that requirement to get you to that next level is you got to study. When we went to school, we studied. And if you haven't been studying, well, you're behind. If you're on the road in the evenings and weekends, you shouldn't be sitting there watching Netflix all night long. You should be studying about your body, studying about your customers, studying about your truck, studying about your finances, studying about what opportunities do I have in this market? What am my marketing? How much money are you spending on marketing? Did you actually spend any money on marketing? Are you spending any money on marketing? If you're not, well, you haven't planned yourself, right? If you're not spending money on websites, you haven't taken the effort to find a way to get to meet this broker. That's marketing, right? If you find a way, like whether it's a Zoom, and heck, let's say you're just always think outside the box. Can't emphasize, if you're at a dock for an extended period, have a subscription to Zoom. Even if start with the free version, it gives you a 45-minute call. And if you're sitting there in the dock and it's been over 2 hours, email the broker and say, I got a problem. Can you call me? So they call, hey, can you jump onto the link with me? And sometimes just the reason I'll tell you this works. I had a problem with one of my LTL carriers the other day. The previous sales rep is on maternity leave. So I emailed this rep and they called and they said, can we jump on a video call? Sure. So he sent me I offered to offer my link. He sent me his link. We had a quick 10-minute chat, solved the problem, and it was done. And we had a quick chat about business. He asked me, hey, do you have any regular lanes that we could help look at some better discounts if you have heavier freight? Turns out he's a newer sales rep to this carrier. Where did he come from? YRC.
Oh, wow.
He was a sales rep for YRC. So again, he's trying to build a relationship with us. I'm trying to build a relationship with him at this carrier. So that relationship can mean different things to different people. But if you don't get to know them, right, over time, sorry, if you don't get to know them, their favorite football, like some of you want to just get in there and chat a little bit about what's their favorite football teams and things of that nature, where they like their activities, they like to go fishing on the weekend or whatever. But you also need to get into them. Don't just keep it superficial, because I've also seen the flip side of that. I've seen it where when I was at Coca-Cola, when I became a district manager, there were some guys that had been there for a long time, and some that when they actually trained me when I started, but I became their manager. So we'd go out and I'd be with them, go in the car with them, and we go spend the day riding from store to store, and we park. This is my buddy. He's the coach of my son's hockey team. So you think, great. Or my kid's baseball team, or he's my neighbor. He actually is my neighbor. He's a good friend of mine. We walk in the store, and Coke is number 2. We don't have no extra displays. Pepsi's number 1. They've got displays everywhere. So, and I've seen that happen several times where he's my buddy. Well, they didn't take that friendship and evolve it to a business relationship. So there's a percent, oh yeah, he knows me well. Yeah, he knows and trusts you, but yet he didn't give you all the number 1 positions, didn't have you all the displays. So I've seen that there's relationships and there's relationships, and it's got to be, it's a it's a process. You got to
Mhm.
get to know them personally, but you also need to get into the meat and bones of the business and sell deeper. And selling deeper is getting yourself so that you've built that trust and you get to the point where brokers will expose you to freight that they don't put on load boards. That's the whole goal. And if you have good brokers that paid you 3 years ago, why aren't you working with them anymore? Because you just jumped for the money. That's why. You didn't stick through the game. How many times when the money was good, did any of you call the broker and saying, look, you're overpaying. I'll do these loads for a little bit less in exchange, making some kind of a deal, but you're overpaying in this lane. I want this lane for a long period of time. And I know the rates are up, but you tell your customer we're going to give a slight discount in exchange. When the prices go down, you keep paying me for a little bit longer, another month or two. I'm not saying that's the exact, I'm just giving that scenario that I've had carriers come to me that know me and say, no, Rob, I offer them a rate and they say it's too much. You won't get the load because they've seen it posted by other brokers and they'll say, quote it at this. You'll get the load and then give it to me. Guess what? I do. If I call the carrier for a quote and we discuss a rate, when I get the load, I don't just turn around and post it on a load board. I call that carrier. Hey, remember the other day we talked about this load? Yep. I just did that last week going from Vancouver to Florida. I had a flatbed load. I talked to a carrier. I got the load. I called that carrier up, and I had 3 or 4 carriers in mind, but my first carrier, I called them. Yep, we knew about it. Boom, picked it up. So it's a process, and you have to be studying this. You have to keep studying business, and it's changing fast. And those relationships that you talked about may only last a month or two here, and then it comes in ebbs and flows, right? It does. But guess what? It'll come back. That's what happens with me. I'll get carriers where I haven't worked with them for a while, and all of a sudden I'll do 2 or 3 or 4, and then I won't work with them for a while. But guess what? If I call a carrier, carriers call me back right away. They see it. Hey, Rob, sorry, I missed your call. What do you need? Because they know if I'm calling with something legit. I'm not wasting their time. And most of my stuff is not on load boards. Only a select amount of stuff is. So
I've noticed that. That's why it really surprised me that you said SPI has been around for 45 years. I very rarely see an SPI load on a load board ever. Like I think I've called on a couple, but beyond that, I it's not like TQL where you see like 20 out of 100 loads is TQL. So that I believe what you're saying there.
Well, we have a variety of agents out there. We have some agents. We have an agent in Idaho they have warehouse. They do brokering. They're down to 5. She told me they're down to 5 trucks now, but they had 16 trucks, and they've been in this business over 20 years, 25 years. And she told me this on the rendezvous, because we actually had a table of us veterans that had been at SPI for a while. And she said, I'm down to 5. Only 1 left because of personality differences. All the other left, they retired. They stayed with me for like 20 years. And I got 5 more that didn't quit. They didn't leave. They stuck with us the whole time. There's something to be, and we have another agent in California that's got a few trucks as well. And we got agents doing a variety of different things. But the other thing to really sit back and open your eyes to, retirement. It's really easy, and I'll tell you this because I'm feeling this exact same feeling. Super easy in this business to get busy, living life, working, taking time off, wash, rinse, repeat. Before you know it, you're 55, 60, and you look back and you realize, oh, I don't have as much retirement savings as I thought. Now what? So you really got to assess your situation. Because remember, you got a truck and it may or may not be worth a lot of money, but it's just like a home. You can say my house is worth X amount of dollars right now, then sell it. Right? Because it's perceived value. We don't know. The value is great today. It may last for 10 years. But you waited to the 11th year and it became 2008 and the housing market dropped and you wanted to sell. So while our assets are definitely a value that we can gain wealth from, they're only as good as what we perceive them to be. And if we maintain them and keep them up, usually in time that does come true. But again, the time that you want to cash out, the market may have shifted, and you may have to wait longer than you expected, and so forth. So I cannot emphasize enough. Stop for a moment, sit down with your wife, grab a cup of coffee or tea, discuss how old you are, how many kids you got, what is your life like? Really take that time and say, what do you want to do? If your kids are teenagers, so you still got time, they're still there, so you're doing your thing, great. But when they're done, what does it look like? And Steve, I know you're kind of in the similar as myself. I'm in the situation where my kids are getting older, and two of them one's moved out, one's about to move out, and one just came back from a 6-month trip in New Zealand. So, and figuring life out. That then you have to think about your spouse and what your time and effort looks like when you're older. And how much money do you think you're going to need? Are you going to stay in the same town? Are you going to move? Are you going to sell this place? Are you going to buy another place? And all of that. There's no right. There's no wrong. It's all up to each of us individually. All I'm saying is this reminder. Stop. Pull your head up from your day-to-day grind. Look at the 10,000-foot picture of your situation. How much debt do you have on your trucks and other debt in your life, business and personal? When do you think you're going to be debt-free? And assess what is the best situation for you to achieve your financial goals. And sometimes being a one truck operator, you're on the pathway, and other times you're going to realize, yeah, doing this alone is not easy. Because when you're busy, depending on how you run, but I can tell you that I can't fathom how if you're always running and then stopping and then waiting till you get unloaded and then you find your next load, you do need someone behind the scenes to help keep an eye on the marketplace for you. If you want to keep running and maximizing your revenue, you need a dispatcher like Steve or someone similar to help you out from time to time. Sure, you want to be part of the game, and I know that sounds all good, but what's the goal? When you're sitting, unless you're one of the unusual that you let someone else drive your truck on your days off to keep that, because remember, your truck is the tool, the revenue tool for your business, and most have pride in their ride, so they don't like to let someone else slip seat and use their truck. So if they're not working, it's not moving. The wheels aren't turning. What does that mean? You're not making revenue. So, unless you're the unusual. So if you're not, when you are working, you need either yourself or someone else that's behind the scenes helping you study what's going on to maximize your revenue, building relationships on your behalf. Because if you're behind the wheel and you're doing a 15-mile run, how are you doing that? You can't be on load boards. Like, unless I'm wrong, you tell me, Steve, how easy is that for a driver who does, say, 2 1,500-mile trips a week? Maybe no one's doing that. Everyone's doing short trips. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can get that. That could be a whole different can of worms. But I wanted you to touch on the cargo.
Yeah, so we're right into there.
Cargo stuff. I'm going to take this call real quick, and then but keep talking.
Okay, so the first thing to be aware of, again, if you're a small carrier, and what brokers are looking at nowadays, is in 2010 to 2016, if there was a verdict settlement, say there was an injury, some sort of injury claim, the general rule was $2 million payout. Now, in 2023, a verdict settlement, the average payout, $23.8 million. So this is where being by yourself, and if you had a situation happen, can wipe you out. It can, because remember, with the 23.8 million payouts on verdicts of injuries, etc., insurance companies are going after the carrier, the shipper, the broker, anyone who was involved in that freight. They're going to find a way to hold you accountable. That's the gist. So, number one, as we get into the cargo theft, but when you're a one carrier operator, really dive into your insurance policy. Progressive, which is the typical go-to insurance company. This is kind of jumping ahead, but with Progressive, 44 claims submitted, 44 declined. Why? Exclusions. The progressive policy, if you think that you're on a progressive policy and you're covered and you're protecting your parties involved, you're not. And you'll have to prove me otherwise and prove many other people otherwise. So progressive allows people to get in, but and in fact, someone had a meeting with progressive and that's their stick. They have, it's a cheap policy with exclusions to prevent them from paying out anything, essentially. So it's very, very difficult to get a settlement out of progressive claims, insurance policies, because that. So if you have study, it sounds boring. If you don't want to read it, call your insurance broker and saying, do you have a webinar or do you have a thing where someone can help me convert my insurance policy into normal language, right? If it's, because hey, there's a lot of funky words in there that you may or may not understand. If you read it yourself, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to highlight this word and highlight this word and highlight this word. You're like, wow. So you got to find someone that's, if you can interpret it and understand it, great. If you can't, there's no problem with that. Just get someone to help you, but study, understand your particular policy and what exclusions there are. If a carrier, and ask your brokers. If you're just picking up standard freight, just ask them, what's the value of the load? Start tracking it. Enter it into your TMS. If you have a decent TMS, it's going to have a box for the value of the load. And you can pull reports. And you're going to say, well, I don't use a TMS. Again, study. TMS is there for a couple of reasons. One, if you actually use a TMS, you're learning how to dispatch, how everyone does it, how to enter loads. That will help you that if you ever needed to transition to a different role in a trucking company or in a brokerage, you understand how a TMS works. So you've added a skill set to your toolbox. Number two, TMS, if you've added good data, because remember, technology is only as good as the data inputted. So if you enter all the details of your loads and all the arrival times, departure times, rates, guess what? A good TMS you can run a report on on-time arrivals and departures. That's a good talking point for your brokers when you're trying to deep sell, that you can bring up that report. Hey, I did 20 loads with you this year. 2 of them, I was late. The rest of them, I was always early. And then I had 1 late delivery because of that snowstorm, but the rest are all there. So that's a great selling point to bring up to them. Because remember, when you're deep selling to a broker, you may be working with a specific broker agent, but you want to also, those broker agents may come and go, especially if it's a employee style. You want to get some of the management in there as well, where you're connecting with them, LinkedIn. And just think, if a broker doesn't have any LinkedIn exposure at all, that's a red flag. We should all be on LinkedIn to some degree. I know some people don't like it, but it's a norm, because just look at your situation. If you don't have a LinkedIn, a website, when you have all of these things, you create the consistency. You can create a YouTube channel with your logo. You create your LinkedIn profile with your logo, your website with your logo, and then leverage your website to offer information about your services. You can direct people there. Hey, you want to see the lanes I run, the equipment I use, etc. So into the cargo theft. Give me 1 second here. Now, I don't think I can give you the exact details that I gave Steve, just because I don't want it to be out there, that in case this is obviously on the internet and or on the YouTubes, and well, if criminal person was to hear this, well, they know that there's a lot of people investigating them and finding out all what their strategies are. So I'm going to have to kind of keep it a little bit more top line than what I provided you. But
okay, thank you.
The main point is that the amount of cargo theft happening and the speed in which it's happening, the industry wasn't ready. And if you think I haven't had a problem, well, you may have not, but trust me, it's out there. The thing that I can tell you, I'm not going to give you the stats of which states, but I can just, this Scott Cornell, he used to be a driver. He's now in charge of this insurance cargo theft company. Essentially, all the states, the major core city states, have dropped or reduced the number of officers investigating cargo theft. This company, Scott Cornell, his company, they have agents, I don't know, 20, close to 20 agents around the United States that are available to do stuff. And he will answer questions, etc. And you can look it up, Steve, as we're doing this. Maybe you could look up as I'm talking, Scott Cornell Insurance, cargo theft, and see if his name comes up. And it's it will say it on there. But actually, you know what? I can tell you which company he's with. It's going to be
Travelers?
Yes, that's the one. Travelers. So if you ever have questions or want to better understand, but this, when you hear some of the top line information, open your eyes up as you're going around to different facilities, picking up and delivering. And when you see potential situations, use that to talk to your brokers, right? If you saw that a shipper has a bad practice for something that puts them at risk, call your broker, call the customer you're working with, and educate them, saying, can we have a conversation about this? How I think that you guys are at risk for potential cargo theft, etc. So there's no silver fix to this situation with cargo theft, but it's very complex right now. It's happening fast. And his belief is that it's going to take the entire supply chain to fix it. Remember I talk about that? I've always talked about that before on my channel and other videos. Think of this industry as not just I'm a trucker. I'm an asset within the supply chain. Always, again, studying, taking that minute to study. Where does my brokers and the loads I haul fit into supply chains? Are we at the raw commodity to the finished products? And so there's essentially, there's two types of theft. So let me ask you this. If a carrier is holding a load hostage, is that theft?
No.
Right. It's not. So if a carrier says, I'm not going to deliver your load until you do the following. If a broker calls the local police, they're not going to write on the report theft because it's not. So just know that. The biggest thing is to recognize is with the cargo theft situation, their the two skill sets that cargo thieves have that we can all learn from them, from being a broker and a carrier. They focus on ROI, return on investment, and they focus on what to sell, what to steal, and when to steal it. So they're very complex right now. The highest, they actually adjust their strategies based on the economy. So what would you, and Steve, you answered this, so I'll kind of let, you can give the answer, but what are the top 2 or 3 commodities for theft?
Beverages and electronics. And beverages, stuff like soda and beer, they tend to not decrease in sales. In fact, they increase in sales when the economy tanks. So, but yeah, that's my guess right there.
You're correct. And energy drinks, because energy drinks, there's some countries out there that have banned them. So from a return on investment, if they can get them out of the United States and put them onto ocean and ship them to countries, their return on investment is much higher because it's a commodity that regular you can't buy. You have to buy them from the black market. These cargo thefts are so sophisticated, they're stealing the product and they're creating sophisticated sales websites on there. So the reason that things like say frozen foods, I won't give an exact product, but let's just take frozen foods. Frozen foods is a great one to steal, because if they steal and say they take off 2-4 skids and leave the rest of the trailer, well, they take 2 or 4 skids, upsell it, sell it to a market somewhere, and they make good money. And the rest of the load, do you think once a reefer load, well, no one's going to, the investigators, after 24 hours, even if they recover that load and found the trailer, what can they do with it? Nothing. They're going to have to toss out that load. Mm-hmm. So whereas electronics, if they steal electronics, the investigators can chase it for months to better understand, because they have serial numbers. They can investigate it. Things like consumables are harder to investigate. So that's one of the reasons they sell it. It's good return on investment. So again, yeah, the 2 key qualities: they know what to steal, when to steal it, and they focus on return on investments. And so if people are not spending money on TVs, they're not stealing TVs. because what's the point? No one wants to buy them. They have no money. So they buy what, just like you said, people will buy drinks and stuff. So there's two types. There's the basic. One of the key ones is AB5, because AB5, there's been a huge growth in Phoenix, and those of you who are on here, you would agree with this and know this, that in Phoenix there's a certain area. I think, what was it, Highway 303 or 3 something, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
That,
yeah, I'm not sure,
but somewhere's in Phoenix, there's been a huge growth of warehouses. And see, part of the kicker is a lot of times California to Phoenix has been a bad market for cargo theft, because a lot of drivers like to leave California, drive to Phoenix to get the cheaper fuel, and they'll follow along behind those trucks and box trucks and other ones. And then when you stop for fuel, they will open the doors and steal the stuff. So
101.
And now, sorry?
101.
They said Highway 3. Yeah, Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
The 303.
Okay, go ahead.
So the gist is,
it's called,
I
see that highway. Yeah.
Right. It's called pilfering. So basically, there's the outright stealing, where a thief steals product from the trailer and takes it off. But nowadays, it's very sophisticated. They will launder the freight. There's a variety of things they'll do, but I'll give an example. And these groups, they will get into where they will have call centers in other countries. And when they see a load, they actually have people doing surveillance. They pick where they believe that certain facilities have the goods they want to steal. They will park people out there to monitor. If they see the same trucks going in and out, what they'll do, they'll get a trailer, try to mimic the logo. They'll send the driver in a couple hours. If the drivers, they see, okay, all the time they're coming in at 1 o'clock, they'll send the driver at like 11:30. They'll play street drama. They'll come in, they drive, oh, I forgot my paperwork and all this. They make themselves look just like an employee. The warehouse sees the truck and the trailer, and they see the guy. They think that he looks just like it. So, oh, we know the load you need. They give it to this driver. 2 hours later, the real driver shows up, and they found out that load, got taken. So they're doing surveillance. Sometimes they get so sophisticated, they will get one of their people hired at that warehouse to be an inside person. The other things that are happening is how they'll launder the freight. Let's say that I'll use TVs or cell phones. So there's a truckload of TVs. They will have it picked up and go into take it to a warehouse. So what they do is first off, the cargo theft team will use their circle of their customer service team. They'll pilfer a brokerage, set themselves up to make themselves look legit, convince the broker, they get the load. And then what they do is since they're not really a real carrier, they actually then hire a real carrier to go and pick up the load. But instead of delivering it to a Best Buy or Walmart or Costco or something, they tell them, deliver it to this 3PL warehouse. So it comes into the door as TVs. They go in, they'll take off, they'll keep 2 skids, change the paperwork, make it look like it's supposed to be 2 skids. They deliver the 2 skids to the actual place where it was supposed to go. So the freight got picked up and delivered, but they've modified, they got these big warehouses, go to another big warehouse. They see the manifest saying the load number, yep. And it says on the manifest, 50 TVs on 2 skids. Okay. And they check it in and receive it. Meanwhile, if there was 15 or say 16 pallets, they kept the 2. There's 14 skids. They now took those other 14 skids that they kept, changed the paperwork to make it look like electronics, transfer it to another warehouse, then rechange the paperwork again to freight of all kind, FAK, get it onto ocean freight, and it's gone. And they'll do this because think about it. If you have a big company, they have sending out POs to buyers who hire through their logistics team, use a broker to the carrier. So there's a whole bunch of layers. By the time these guys are laundering this freight, because they can do this, they're delivering 2 skids, delivering 3 skids, delivering 2 skids instead of the full truckloads. All of a sudden, 3 or 4 weeks goes by. Then the purchaser realizes, why are we out of these TVs so quick? We should have so much. And then they realize, but meanwhile, they did this 5, 6, 7, 8 times where they put a few out and they kept the rest. So it's very
So
sophisticated.
it's not just two guys cutting the lock off the trailer
Absolutely
anymore.
not.
It's
And
going way deeper.
someone asked at our meeting to the Scott if there's one country. He says a few years ago we could narrow it down to about 2 or 3 countries. He says it's so rampant right now, and most of it is actually, you think it's just, say, some biker gang. There's a little bit of, in Canada, there's a little bit of it is biker gangs, but most of it in the United States are foreign entities.
Did they go over what states have the biggest cargo theft? Like, I know when I was at Landstar, they had a whole big meeting, and they said that Texas was one of the top places, especially
Yeah.
Dallas.
Yeah, Texas
go over
is,
that?
Florida, California, and now Phoenix is in the top 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Phoenix is in the top 10. So, yeah, so they basically, they know a lot. They're doing a lot of things in there. So I'm just trying to keep it where I'm giving you enough information. But they are doing some very sophisticated things in there. So they'll plant a member, like I talked about. So they're doing a lot of the double brokering business. And let me just see here. Just going to pull up my other note here.
Yeah, while you're looking at your notes, Dan's Hotshot says, Big Rig Becca just posted her brother's truck with a load of lumber was stolen. I believe the truck and trailer had been recovered, but load and equipment gone.
Oh.
Yep. So sorry to hear that.
Well, here's the other thing. If you had a load taken, flatbed loads are obviously harder, but the best thing is, as a carrier, one of the things you can start to do, take pictures of your loads, making sure that the paperwork's accurate. And if a situation happens where there's something stolen, report it right away. The faster you report it, the sooner it can get investigated. That's the one thing we can kind of tell you in there. Sorry about this. I'm not too sure where I put this piece here. Just had kind of I think. Oh, there we go. Sorry, there we go. I got it now. So, so basically, they talk about point of pickup at the shippers. So, the part of this is that a lot of it is just being aware and training. So, point of pickup. This is the time that we need to educate brokers. When you hear a broker saying, "I want a picture of the driver in front of the truck holding a specific number to prove that it's live and legit," and you're gonna say, "This is a real pain. Why do I have to do it?" Because of the theft. We know what these guys are doing. They will go on there and they'll Velcro license plates over top, so it looks like a legit thing, but then they just pull it off and it changes. So shippers should be going around to the trailer, not looking at the logos. Are they easily peeled off? Because you know that. Why would you be able to peel off a logo so easy? Shouldn't, right?
Right.
So that's a red flag. If check the license plate, if it comes off, that's a red flag. So basically, they have to train frontline staff to raise awareness, document, copy all information on the CDL. They said you should really cross-reference identification to ensure driver's handwritten is legible. Oh, here's the classic example. They'll talk about when you are as a broker, these cargo theft rings, when they talk and you start, because a lot of them, see, they don't know much about freight. So they're trying to figure it out. But if you are trying to book a load and they have this hesitant laugh, like they give this nervous laugh, that's a red flag. There's a lot of little things like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll look after it really good for you," and all this stuff. Like, so it's just there's red flags to be aware of.
I think just being aware. I had a friend of mine that posts on Facebook that he had to actually honk the horn for the broker to hear. It's getting kind of ridiculous, but just being aware. When I was at Landstar, because of the cargo theft, especially if you're in the Fort Worth yard, they had a lot of tips and tricks, because they had like 5 trucks over Thanksgiving Day weekend that were full of electronics that were all ripped off.
Well, and that's in fact. Go ahead.
I was going to say the other trick that I've heard was in a drop lot. There was a friend of mine that said their company had a bunch of trailers stolen because the truck showed up with, ABC Towing and trailer repair, something like that, and they were able to get out the guard shack with the trailers, and by the time they figured it out, decals are gone and the freight was gone.
Well, to my point when I talked about how they launder the freight, when you are picking up when you're picking up your load, take a look at the shipper's addresses, and if they're different, if you're told by the broker deliver to this location, or like the person that booked you the load asked you to deliver the load to someplace different that doesn't match the shippers, you're gonna have to now. Sometimes they'll say this is a blind shipment, but somewhere in there you're gonna need to verify that piece of it. So you're gonna have to. You should have your spidey senses up. CDN out of van, flat, reefers. I would say van and reefer.
Why is that?
Well, just because with vans, they'll try to it's because flatbed, well, it's just harder to get to. They can do it. It's not saying they're all susceptible, but return on investment, right? There's multiple ways in which that they can steal from it, right? Because you can, like flatbed, it's a little hard. It's just harder because it's heavy, right? Like think about that. Even if you had a load of steel and they want to steal it, well, you often if it's long pieces, you're going to need a forklift or something. Whereas a van, they could open up the back door, back up to it, and just start ripping stuff off pallets, individual boxes.
Right.
And same with reefer. If you have a load of meat, shrimp, frozen, whatever, high-end frozen something, well, it's in pallets, and you can just start ripping that apart. And anyone that's done reefer, you know how expensive some of those loads are worth. The average, here's how this will put the gist of it. The average return on investment that these guys look at, because when they look at energy drinks and stuff, between $200,000 to $212,000. So why do you think they're targeting the trucking industry? Pretty good return on investment to compare to trying to steal from something else.
Right. To Gary Cook's question, if a trailer has a temporary plate, is that a red flag? Absolutely. And as a matter of fact,
yes, 100%.
There's a lot of states, I know Michigan's one of them, that you cannot haul a load in a temp tag trailer. So when I picked up my new trailer in Michigan, I had a choice. I can have my wife send me the plate. I didn't have the paperwork ready yet to do that, or I could take the temp tag and at least move the trailer back to Missouri where I can get it plated. But yes, that is a red flag, and that's why it's illegal in many places to haul a load with a temp tag trailer.
Well, here's a couple of the quick red flags. So the carrier calling you has no profile on the load board where the load is posted. They resist providing key details such as driver or equipment information. Tractor information does not match safer website. Seems very eager to get the deal done and skip over details. Will not provide photos or arrive at shipper with temp or proper placards. Arrive at the shipper for other OTR load with a day cab, meaning like if it's a long load and they're showing up with a day cab. Unless it's like, I mean, some companies will do that. Swift and mega carriers will do that, where they have their day driver goes and picks up the load and brings it to the yard for the line haul. It does happen, as long as you communicate that.
Yeah.
Nervous laughter, long pauses, or questions that should be basic. That's one there. The other one is their fleet size does not match their revenues in miles. The FMCSA fleet size doesn't match their application. The carrier software report or other similar shows inspections that don't match where they were trying to load or the length of time in business. The contract information you're getting doesn't match the website, FMCSA, other sources, phone numbers, addresses. Emails don't line up. They will do funky things with emails. So number one rule, don't click the link. With emails, when you talk about bad emails, sometimes like you'll get an email. So imagine this. 2 V's in an email. So if they put something in there and they put 2 V's, it may try to make it look like a W. An R and an N together look like an M. So pay attention. Because I get an email often from our president, and I'm like, he only emails me once in a blue moon. and I could tell by the the email. I look at it and I can tell it's fake. So
Wow.
be very, very cautious on your emails. When you're opening an email, you think, oh, this looks like the person I know. Triple check. Look at the email. There'll be something funky about it. Even if it looks close, there'll be something funky about it. Okay. Here's the other one. Random call. Oh, so here's the other. So fleet size. Oh, yeah. So the emails don't line up. Random call to change the point of contact or billing information. Refuse any attempts to use tracking or digital footprints. Meaning, right? So if you're refusing, I don't want to use the broker's tracking, well, you're a red flag, especially if it's a high value load.
Well, nowadays they're putting right on the rate con that if you don't, like, in other words, you'll get, let's say you got 1,500 for the load, they're putting 1,000 line haul and then 100 for tracking, 100 for check calls, 100, and you don't get that extra 500 until after the load's done, and it, because I have to read, like, if we get a rate con that has that, we have to get a new rate con with everything added afterwards before we can invoice. And so that's how they're dealing with that.
And here's the sequence. So it will go like this. A load is brokered. Bad guys given load. They double broker steal. They falsify the delivery confirmation. And then over time, then it finally, an audit reveals the load's never delivered. So they'll do that. Here's the other thing. So how these cargo thieves and cargo rings are doing. They purchase lots of MC numbers. So they offer to purchase of an MC number, one-off or in bulk, various methods to purchase, industry adjusts. So monitor for contact changes, monitor for ownership changes, bad guys adjust. So they'll purchase and then other additional funds for emails, phone numbers, and so forth. So, so you have to really just keep your eyes open and use those opportunities. Like that's what these guys look for now. So even as a broker, if you are posting freight, you as much as you want to put detail, if you put too much detail, you're telling, hey, I got a high value load over here. Come over here. I got this high value load. When you put team driver, like a lot of high value loads now require team drivers and so forth. But again, as a broker, I'd be educating my shippers to avoid running high value loads over the weekend, even if they want teams, because it just that weekend offers the opportunity. Some brokers won't send it. Yeah, until tracking is accepted. So,
well, those are good thoughts. Let's address Jackknife TV. He goes, well, the future of trucking as a small business owner looks very bleak. It doesn't look like things are going to be fun at all. Maybe it's time to start looking at something different. What are your thoughts on when someone tells you that? Because you probably hear that every now and then.
Well, I would say it depends how long you've been in the business. Go back to why you got in the business in the first place. And the thing I would say to you, Jackknife, is that if you change to another industry and say you became an oil field guy, or you worked as an electrician, and you've always done things the same way for 25 years, and you're not open to change with AI, we brought up a thing, HI and AI, human interaction and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is here, but HI is just still as most important as well, human interaction. AI is to help make certain tasks we do more efficient, so that we have more time for the HI. So the point I would say is, if you think changing to another field is going to give you better financial long-term, maybe so, but are you willing to change to meet the new standards of that industry? And every industry is going through this. I mean, there's talk when we see a big building being built that it's going to be all robots loading stuff, not, it's going to be all done with intelligence. We don't know how soon, but the point is that I think it's just that look at why you got into the business, why you chose to go on your own. And if you're doing all the steps, it's just that with one truck and all the insurance that's out there and the requirements, I'm not saying it's bad. The message here is evaluate who you're working with. If you're a one truck operator and you are taking these higher risk loads where you're a reefer, and you take a lot of high value reefer loads, are you truly protected with your insurance policy? And are you truly protecting your shippers? And that's all it means, is that you just may need to adjust. It's just that with the amount of stuff that things are happening so fast, and when you're busy driving, you can't be effectively staying on top of all these tools and like sometimes, unless you're working, like I said, if you're an anomaly where you're working with the same brokers, you got 3 or 4 brokers, that's all you work with, you don't even have to go to load boards. They call you up, hey, Jackknife, I got another load for you. And it's the same person. You've done this load 20 times. Sure, on the fly, you can grab that load. Yep, I'm driving right now. Send me the rate con. I'll accept it when I stop. But if you're trying to post your truck, driving down the road, taking calls from multiple brokers, that's when you need a dispatcher, because it takes time and effort to vet those people to ensure that you're working with the right. Like they can say, oh yeah, this sounds good. I know this load. Yeah, this sounds familiar. The rate's pretty good. Sure, I'm interested. And you make a bad decision once because you're trying to be quick. So that's all it is. To say, is it bad for it? No. I believe you good operators just need to stand up and let the people you're working with know you are a good operator. There's a lot of bad ones out there. And it's amazing how many times, like I said, I can go through and punch in. I went through another lane. I punched in the first 4 carriers that I looked at, I couldn't use them. So there's a lot of bad actors out there is the summary. So if you're a good carrier, stand up and shout. The old Dr. Zeus, where the little Z or Y is the final letter that makes it so they're heard. You need to stand up and make yourself heard. You need to be a little bit selfish and making sure that the parties you're working with, like, I'm legit. I'm not going to mess you over. I'm doing real business here. Freight's not going to be stolen. I'm looking after you, looking after your customers. And you need to find a way to educate the parties you're working with that you are a good player and that they need you as much as you need them.
Excellent words, my friend. I appreciate that.
I don't know if that answered Jack Knight's question, but that's all I'd say is just if you're struggling where you're just bebopping in the spot market, that's what I would be like. Okay, maybe I need to either figure out what lanes I need to focus on, or if I like bebop in the spot market, then get some people around you. Surround yourself with other successful people.
I agree.
What's Gary Cook's
question?
Is
it the brokers or shippers using the tracking apps? I think it's both, because I know, like, I've done loads for Coyote, right, where Coyote needed tracking from their app on my phone, but Coca-Cola wanted the tracking off of FourKites for their system. And so knowing that Coyote and FourKites were following me, when the broker called and said, hey, do you have a status update? I'm like, yeah. And I kind of mentioned, it's like, yeah. He goes, yeah, a lot of drivers have trouble with that. I said, well, because they look at the tracking and think, well, you're tracking me on 2 different things, so you should know where I'm at. It's like, yeah, well, FourKites is mainly for Coca-Cola and or whatever I was using. And then we have our app, but I wanted verification as well. And this was like several years ago before the fraud became rampant. So.
And also a shipper, if they've had any theft, there could be a situation where they plant, similar to like an Apple iPod tracker or something similar, where they plant it in the freight and you may not know. And they're not doing it to track so much your truck, like you're actually driving, the speed and everything else. They're tracking it so that if the freight, all of a sudden they see that it's been a certain period of time, they can see where it is. If it gets stolen.
The other thing I will say is that Schneider, when I was the owner operator at Schneider, they were one of the first mega carriers to have tracking devices on their trailers. And then they used that as a selling point to go into the customers. Hey, we have real-time tracking on your freight that's on our trailers. And that was a selling point. And I use that as a selling point with our ELD. I can say, hey, I'll give you the Samsara link. And, and the driver I've got now, he is tremendously good at all communications. I've had to create a separate folder just for his check calls, because after every load, or during every load, he emails when he shows up. He emails a picture of the bills when he's leaving, and he sends a picture of the freight tied down in the trailer. He takes a picture of the lock. He takes a picture of the seal and the lock, and he communicates very well. And I know Shannon's talked about that. She's really good at communication. And if the brokers are worried about cargo theft, then utilize that, manipulate that, capitalize on that. Hey, I know you're going to give me your tracking apps, but I'll also give you a link to the LD. I'll do a check call every so often. Use that for leverage versus the guys like, what rate, in the email, so
well,
utilize that.
And actually, if you could be proactive with the brokers you're working with, where at the load, just like you said, you're taking a picture of the seals, and if the shippers aren't putting a seal, you put one and take a picture and saying, this is the seal I'm putting on, and have the shipper write that seal number on the paperwork so that the copy the driver has and the copy that the shipper had matches. This way, if you were stopped by a DOT officer and they were going to examine your shipment, if they broke the seal, they're required to replace it. That's just like customs, right? If you put a seal on and the custom officer breaks it to examine the freight, they're going to put a new one on, but they're going to give you the old one back so that you have the consistency and you can see that's happening. So the more that you're proactive on those things, and if you're a person where you have a regular load that gets you home, where you get to go home, you pick it up, and then you park on the weekend, if you're just parking in a little lot somewheres, you might have to spend some money and rent a secured lot with cameras, right? All those little things. Where those are just like little things. So just take a moment, study. How can you improve your operations? How do you focus on your safety right now? Do you have really you if you own your own truck or you're one carrier authority, while you're driving that truck, and then when you get out of that truck, you have to look at it as if, okay, I'm the manager evaluating that driver. How would you evaluate yourself?
Yeah, right? I did a video. Yeah, that was one of my topics one time. Would you hire yourself? Would you hire you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it. So that's kind of the gist. Hopefully that made sense, but that's kind of the gist. There's a bunch of little things, but that's kind of just saying, just be aware. It's very, very sophisticated what's happening with the cargo thefts around the United States, and the rings and how they're doing it. So,
well, the attitude too, right? So I once talked to a driver that, this is years ago when I was at Landstar, and and it's like when I was at Schneider, it was a requirement to lock every trailer. Now a lock only stops an honest man or a lazy thief. But if a broker calls and say, hey, did you put a lock on the trailer? And you go, well, they're not going to steal this. This isn't worth stealing. It's like it. Basically, what I'm getting at is there are some loads that don't require seals, right? Like 8 rolls of paper usually don't get a seal. But I still put my own seal on. Like I'll go to the truck stop, buy the seals. Landstar, they used to give us them by the fistful, and I would still write down the seal number. I would still show the lock because you want to show that you care. And they're more likely going to use you than the person like, I don't need to lock it. So, I mean, attitude is a big part of it as well, in my opinion. So,
and the other thing I was going to mention, when we talk about studying, there's a lot of stuff that if you're currently, say, for example, driving down the road and you're downloading audiobooks, that's great. But my suggestion would be utilizing like Spotify, download podcasts. There's tons of stuff, like there's Everything Logistics. She did Blythe. She did a LinkedIn. She was one of our guests last year at Rendezvous. She has a channel. She's interviewed many people with SPI. If you look up SPI on her channel, her podcast, Chris Jolly, he's the freight coach. He's on YouTube. He's on Spotify. He's another agent, but he has some social media influence. He, in fact, hosted our management panel. And he talks lots of good stuff about freight and what he's doing. Go to on YouTube and you look up SPI Logistics. They have their own YouTube channel. You can get all kinds of people in there. You see myself. I've been interviewed. Many agents. If you go on that SPI Logistics one, you'll hear the agent stories, and you'll say, "Well, geez, how do I get this freight?" That's the hard part. There's no silver bullet. The only thing you could do is if you go to the SPI website, there's a section in there for carriers, and there's a way that you can click through our website to get where you'll be onboarding via highway. And then once you're onboarded, then you have to go through the process with the whole onboarding thing. And if you have problems, you can message Steve, and I can assist there. And if you need help, I can help you assist. And once you're in there, we then have on our website where we'll say get freight, and then there'll be a button to click to register. And then that will be, again, not all of our agents are good at doing it, but that's an internal load board. So when we create a load, there's a button that says post to this board. It's like an internal board. Those freight will show up there. So some agents are really good at it, some are not, but that's one way to get freight. And it's just a matter of timing, where all of a sudden you found one load, and then you meet figure out this agent where they have freight in this lane, and all of a sudden one thing leads to another. It's no simple clear-cut answer. Where there's things being worked on to help streamline that to match carriers to agent lanes. But it's a process, I must say. Like Steve says, not a lot of the freight is on the load boards. Some of it is, but once you get in there and you see it, they're phenomenal. They have a lot of stuff in place to help the carriers, to help the agents, and to be successful.
All right. So Gary Cook, can a DOT officer legally break a seal? And the answer is yes. Check securement. Also, Scorpion says, yes, I've had one break my seal while they gave me an inspection. They were checking to see if my load was secured. It was, and they gave me a new seal with paperwork to prove what happened.
Exactly. And also, if you're in certain states where they feel, especially towards the Mexican borders and stuff, in case they feel they have people inside, right? Mm-hmm. And if there's been a certain area with higher reported cargo theft, mm-hmm. So there you go, cheap freight hauler. Great stuff to hear.
Good deal.
So, but that's right, the gist. So, well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it wasn't too boring, but I just wanted to put the message out there, and hopefully this gets replayed. You can chop it up. I'm hoping that you go back. But yeah, when you're studying, so studying wise, study Steve's channels, Jeff Stanley's, Sage's, my channel, Chris Jolly. Go, and if you look up, we have there's another fellow, but if you just look up SPI Logistics on the internet, you're going to find lots. Blythe has been really good with her marketing stuff on that. Everything's logistics. And then your body. What's the most important thing you can do is study our bodies to stay healthy. Kelly Starrett, the Ready State, study him. Tons and tons of great information. He's been around for a lot of years. Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy, study him. Phenomenal information there. I won't bore the details, but Kelly Starrett and the Ready State for mobility, and Ben Patrick and the Knees Over Toes program for reversing out pain, longevity, building strength in a proper way, and flexibility at the same time. Fantastic stuff to study.
Well, I appreciate your time and effort. It's funny. You do have some obvious non-fans, but we got up to 85 people, and it's been as high as 85, and people have stayed. So obviously, you're hitting some good nerves as well as triggering some people. But I mean, that's you can't be a podcaster without being that way, right? So, but
yeah,
Rob, as usual, man, you've been very insightful. I've been looking forward to this interview ever since you told me what you would learn when you came back from Nashville. And because of our schedules, it's been hard to kind of pinpoint. We tried to do this recorded, but I think this worked out a little bit better, and I'm glad your time and my time was able to allow this to happen.
And I think if you chop this up a little bit, it'll play together quite nicely. So
yeah, I'm definitely going to take the time to chop this up and then maybe get a few shorts out of this. And then meanwhile, if you want the book that he talked about, here it is. Here's the link. Follow the Amazon link. And that helps support the channel as well. And then also CDN Freight Broker also has his own channel. Let's see if we can put a link up for that. That way you get some, I know it's been difficult for you to put up some videos, but if I get some shorts out of here, I will definitely help you out with them.
Excellent.
Like we did last time.
Well, thanks for your time. And like I said, sometimes I'm boring, but I'm just giving factual information to help everyone.
No, and I appreciate that. You've definitely been a big help for a lot of people that are in this chat, and then myself included. So thank you, CDN. You have a good day. If you need anything, don't hesitate to call me.
All right.
All right.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Yep. Bye. All right, that was CDN Freight Broker. So we're not even going to look at freight. Well, no, we'll take a look at some market maps here real quick. So, let me share the screen here. We've been at this for an hour and a half. Why not go 2 hours? Right? Let's take a look at freight. This is the 123 low board. Let's see, 48065. If you want to try my code, that way you try these tools. I'm seeing there's some people that are new to the spot market that don't quite know what they're pricing and how they're pricing, and they're leaving some money on the table. So having the tools here is important. So this is for van. California, Arizona, green. Texas is green. Arkansas has went from green to yellow, so that's interesting. And then Oklahoma went from red to yellow. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we can take a look. Michigan's been slow for a while. Let's say if I do this, if I go to DAT and look at their load ratios as well. I wish they did the map. I mean, they do if you pay the $100 version, which is ridiculous. But, I mean, for me, because I've got so many tools, especially with a lot of brokers not posting on the DAT board. Let's take a look at. Now we'll take a look at their load ratios. So when we look at Michigan down here, 588 in, 274 out. I know a driver that booked a load to Iowa for the weekend. Guess what? Iowa's 381 in, 138 out. So it's going to be a struggle to get out of there. Georgia, 1352 in, 3125 out in van. So, but yeah. Chief Freight Hauler says Georgia winding down in the nursery season, but yeah, the freight's looking good. I'm getting the constant freight that I get emails for is on the uptick as far as price wise, so that's good. So, but at any rate, this is the van hot market map on the 123 low board, and let's take a look at Missouri. Actually, no, let's go look at Ohio. I believe Ohio wasn't looking great over here either. Let's see. 1427 in, 551 out. Look at Ohio. Ooh. It's going to be tough to get a truck out of there, possibly. At least off the DAT board. So you never know. Looks like volumes are okay here. So outbound. Let's sort this by age, which that's by default. Let's do pickup date. See what's coming out today. Today, quite a few things. $1.42 to go into New York. That's a partial low. I'm seeing a lot of partials, and I'm seeing a lot of team loads. So the partials have been kind of through the roof here lately. So, but yeah, so let's sort this by highest rate. See where the long haul's going out of Ohio. Alberta, you go visit CDN there, $4,300, $216 a mile. Lockburn, Ohio to Phoenix, Arizona, $3,500, $1.81. I've noticed that loads going to Phoenix are averaging between $1.80 and $2.01. Sydney to Salt Lake, $1.88. So everything's going out west. Colorado, yep. 1 to Laredo, 1 to Florida. Probably needs to be a little bit higher to go into Florida. I noticed that rates have come down going into Florida because volumes are up in Florida. So that pesky supply and demand thing. So, but all right. So let's go back to. All right. So that's van, and then let's look at reefer. Refrigerated. California, Arizona are still green. New Mexico's yellow. It was green for a minute. Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma turns red. Louisiana turns red. Lots of green up here in the north, in the Midwest, northern Midwest. And then Georgia is green, but these other markets being soft are going to soften Georgia. And then Tennessee is going to struggle a little bit because of the flooding and the tornadoes that they've been seeing. I know Nashville's all jacked up. So if you got a load that's picking up in Tennessee or delivering in Tennessee, just know that there might be a situation where it cancels. And you're going to find out just a little bit too late today. So Gary asks, do you think that low boards will get phased out? Probably not. It just depends on tender rejection rates, right? I know a lot of brokers would rather not use the low boards because CDN was sending me screenshots of the stuff that he was dealing with. And he was frustrated because of the carriers that were emailing him all that. Now, he wasn't giving away names or anything. He was just showing, what the results were as far as like the double brokering and the insurance and stuff like that. What I do know is that there's a lot of brokerages that have an electronic platform, a digital platform, and they suck. They're not great. Like, they're glitchy. And so there will always be a need for a low board. I'll give you an example. C.H. Robinson. When C.H. Robinson is struggling to move a load off their own board, they will put it up on DAT and 123. So that's and JB Hunt, same. TQL post on their platform and as well as the the low boards, but so I don't think it'll be 100% phased out. I mean, look, if tender rejections go through the roof again, they'll have no choice but to put it on the low boards. But just know that that's a last resort for them for a lot of them. Not all of them, but for a lot of them. So, but I don't think they'll get phased out completely. Right now, they're still decent tools to use. You just got to know how to navigate them. So anyways, but here's a reefer hot market map. And they're good for stuff like this. They're good for just kind of keeping an eye on things. Because, look, if I go to C.H. Robinson's low board, what I do is I look, okay, here's a load going to Sydney, Ohio. And then what I'll do is I'll open up another tab and say, okay, what's coming out of Sydney, Ohio that they have? And if they only got one or two loads, then I might look and see what volumes are on the two different load boards I use. Like the other day I was doing that. There was a load going to Des Moines, Iowa. And I was like, So I got on 123 and I got on DAT. And I was like, okay, wow, there's not a whole lot of freight coming out of Iowa. And then when I looked at CH's own board, they didn't have anything at that time that was worth doing. And the stuff that was posted it was a lower rate. Why? Well, because the volumes are down in Iowa, so there's more trucks than loads, and they can ask for that. And that's how a lot of brokers do that. So I did not, even though the rate going into Iowa was good, it wasn't worth it to come out of there for what I was looking at and where it was going. So Jackknife says that's how vital Snorelord can be as dispatcher, because there's no way an operator could have their hand in every load board going down the road. Yeah, I mean, look, there's like, let me count the ways. DAT 123, each individual broker load board, and then Parade, Trucker Tools. What's the other one? It's escaping me right now. There's a DOFT, but if I'm checking DOFT, the low board, I'm desperate. So, and yeah, I mean that's there's like 8 or 9 or 10 sources. Back in the day, you were looking at like maybe the digital platforms like JB Hunt, Uber, Convoy, and all that, and CH, Coyote, but then you only had one load board. And what Jeff and I have encouraged is get the lower line DAT, but also, or truck stop, but also get the 1, 2, 3 with all the benefits, because that way I can do market rate checks, and it's been pretty accurate. That way you got more than one tool, because I was talking to a carrier on Friday last week, or it wasn't Friday, it was like Tuesday, and we talked about, they use predominantly truck stop to dispatch their trucks, and truck stop kept going down. And there's been several times that I go to open DAT and it won't open, but I've never had that with 1, 2, 3. Now, yes, the volumes are lower on 1, 2, 3, but you know what? The tools that you get, especially if you're new to the spot market, they're important. And I know people that are new to the spot market that are going off of Truck Smarter or going off these other platforms, and they're not going to show you the average rates. They're not going to show you that, maybe you should be getting more than $1.80 a mile going into Florida. And so you can leave a lot of money on the table if you don't know what you're doing. And I try to do as much as I possibly can, because the more money you make, the more I get, because I'm commission based and commission based only. So, and that's how it works. Now, booking freight for an outside carrier is a bit of a challenge right now. And so it takes a big commitment, and driver's attitude. That's the thing. If you're, that's a big part too, because it's going to take a certain mindset to maneuver, and it's doable. I was talking to our new driver today. That's one of our newest, our newest driver, and here's the thing. I told him, I said, don't let all the people telling you how bad the market is put fear into you, because if you can maneuver through this market, this will only make you stronger when the market comes back up, as long as you don't become complacent. And I've made that mistake of complacency. I will honestly admit that. And because that complacency kills. Complacency is what causes you to live in perpetual Saturday and not get anything done. The ability to maneuver through a bad market at the very first means you don't have all these high expectations. You're not sitting there going, well, that load should pay $4 a mile, because that's when you came into it, that's what it was paying. And so what happens mentally is that screws with you. And next thing you know, your mindset's negative, and you're not making great decisions, and you're not seeing opportunity where other people see despair. And that's the important part, to be able to see opportunity where other people see despair. Jack Knife is on here talking about how maybe it's not worth it to do this. Maybe it's not worth it to do that. Well, if that's your mindset, that's where you're going to stay. But it's okay to recognize the challenges, but don't let them cripple you. Don't let them freeze you. If someone said, hey, Steve, would you buy a truck right now? Personally, for my needs, no. But if I had to, if I had no choice, then there's a certain way I would do it. And there's a certain way it would have to go. And there's a certain way I would have to live and deal with it. And I would recognize that before I would make that first truck payment. And that's how a lot of it is. A lot of people get the truck payment first and then go, now what? It's not the way to live, folks. So anyways, let's take a look at flatbed and van. I'm not van. Flatbed and step deck, sorry. Let's take a look at where this rate is. California's green, Oregon's yellow, the rest of it's red. Oklahoma's a little bit hotter, through 202 outbound. Texas has got a lot of intrastate and outbound. Let's see. Let's take a look at Texas. Let's see what the highest rates are here. Ooh, 30 cents a mile. That's a partial, 35 feet. All right, so Let's do rate per mile here. $4.22 a mile, $2,100 to go to Alabama, $4.07 to go to Oklahoma. There's a couple of those going into $3.97 a mile to go to Louisville, Arkansas. Let's sort this by highest rate. I don't know why that one was showing up as $300. There we go. $55.10 to go out to where's it going? Bonnie's Ferry. Where is that? Let's let this load here. Linsdale, Texas, going to Idaho. So Eagle Lake to Lindale. It's not Linsdale. Bonners Ferry, Idaho. But look at your backhaul results in Idaho. There's 12 loads coming out, so not a whole lot of volume there. Wyoming, you're going to get big money going into the red states there. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Truck Smarter just pull? Yes. And the problem with Truck Smarter is, and I have several drivers that call me, hey, can you call in this load? Truck Smarter's got it this. I'm like, how old's the posting? Like 16 hours. I'm like, I'll call, but it's probably gone. It's the stuff that they would rather post to Truck Smarter than the bigger load boards. But also they're going to neglect that when it comes to taking the loads down when they've got them covered. So Gary says, I've been trucking 28 years. I enjoy it and will continue until I can't drive anymore. Good deal. Had one of my best weeks so far, says Mark Ely. $1 per mile profit on all miles. Cost per mile dollar floor includes 11 cents per mile I set aside for maintenance. Great deal, man. And I'm sure you have a secret to that, and you should hold that close to the chest and only help your friends. But that's good. That's good, man. That's good. So, Jackknife says, it's just scary right now, Steve, to make such a big investment where you don't know day to day if things are going to push you out in a blink of an eye. Right. So you have to be smart, right? You have to be like, I would not go out and buy a brand new truck and then get my own authority and get the insurance for that all at the same time. You want to know how you're going to make your money first and then get the tools to make that money. Like, I'm not just going to go out and buy like a bunch of roofing supplies and tools and then hope that and then put a piece of cardboard on the street sign looking for work. That would not be wise. But if I had 5 or 6 or 10 people say, hey, I like you, Steve. If only you had some tools, you could have some work. Then I'm like, hey, you know what? That's a great idea, and I would do that. So that's kind of how it is. When you go to Prime or Schneider and they offer you a lease purchase truck, they're giving you a platform to make that money with. They're not just like, oh, here's your truck. Good luck. And then you're on the open market not knowing what you're doing. Now, some companies will do that, but that's definitely not the way to go. And there's so many people that fall victim of that. And that's what gives leases a bad name. So, Link, gosh, you're so demanding. All right, let me move this here. Do. We are going to bring Jeff on. Whoops. All right. Jeff. Let's see. Which one should I use? Jeff's also got 83 emails. There you go. Send. There you go, Jeff. I'll bring you in on this too. Mark's 100% luck. Hey, whatever works, man. So, are the interstate rates also bad in the red states, the freight maps? Yes. So what happens is if it's red, the load count is really low. So let me get that back up here. 48065 if you want to try it out for free. So let's do this here. So when you let's click on Kansas. It's red, right? So let's go to intrastate and let's sort this by highest rate. We'll do rate per mile because that's more of a short haul thing, right? They're not even posting rates. So basically, you got one broker that's got Edgerton, Kansas to Wichita, Kansas. So, and literally all the loads are within one scroll. So not a whole lot. So if it's red, there's just not a whole lot there. And that's what sometimes makes these colors happen. Like there's Texas. They've got 465 intrastate loads. Right? So, Jeff, I sent you the link. Gosh. You're slow. Arkansas. Arkansas's got 77 intrastate. Look at that. They got 1,001 outbound and flatbed and step deck. So, Pennsylvania usually has quite a bit of intrastate. 138. California, only 63. There's more intrastate loads in Pennsylvania posted right now than California. So, well, Jeff must have got a phone call. So let me text him. Do. Security breach. Steve, this is going to be an awesome show. The amount of knowledge that has been shown here today is priceless. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Look, every time CDN comes on, it's always been knowledgeable. He's really helped me with, because look, here's the deal. Whether you like brokers or not, you need to understand where they're coming from. You need to understand, if you see them as the enemy, you need to understand why they do what they do, right? Now, Rob has supported the channel quite a bit. He's responsible for a bit of my success, and he's been a great resource. Sage too. As much people like to pick on Sage, and as much as he's picked on me in the past, he's also been a good resource because I can see what's going on the other side of logistics, other than what's going on behind my steering wheel. And the ability to go beyond your perspective is important in anything you do. I'm not just going to go out and buy a building or lease a building and create a brick and mortar business without, educating myself of the area, how much the cost is really going to be, what's truly selling in that neighborhood. You don't want to open up a high-end boutique in a lower poverty area neighborhood. Just like opening probably a Dollar Tree in Beverly Hills is probably not a great idea either. There's different ways, and trucking's no different. Knowing what the needs are for the area. A driver that has his own authority in Montana is going to have different needs than a driver with his own authority in Missouri. If you're a dry van guy in Wisconsin, you're going to have different needs than the reefer guy that lives in Florida. So it's just how it is. So, does any low board have a short-term prediction feature for loads? No. That's the problem with any low board, is that it's difficult to project. So I look for trends, right? And And things change at such a rapid pace, especially with this AI assisting a lot of brokerage in the analytics. So you can get a decent rate out of Georgia right now. Why? Because there's a ton of freight in Georgia, that kind of thing. Once you recognize that, then you can kind of predict it yourself. Every now and then I see it, Jeff. Give me a second. Every now and then I'll see something that makes me, well, why the hell did this happen? And then I'll give CDN a call, or I'll take a look at a FreightWaves article, or I'll look at Sonar real quick and see, okay, that's why. What's up? What's up, Mr. Like?
Hold on. For some reason, the StreamYard is not working right now.
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, but it's not playing. It's not playing through my headset. I don't know what it's doing.
Well, we can hear you. If you can hear me, you're good to go. So, I digress. Now we can't hear you.
The sound through the speakers, and that's not going to
There
work.
you go.
So let me see if I can hook something else up.
No, you're fine. You're not echoing or nothing. So, unless you're having trouble hearing me. Are you having trouble hearing
Not
me?
going to work, Steve.
Well, while Jeff's figuring it out, as soon as the prediction goes up, you would probably immediately have 1,000 carriers blocked to that state of location. So what good is it really? Right, and that information can be used to manipulate, right? So, if you're going from New York State to Washington, it changes quicker than that. So you can sit there and freight's going to be good in Washington by the time you get there. Well, there's no way to really know that. So Jeff's getting phone calls. Can you hear me all right, Jeff?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me mute this and see who this is.
Okay.
I'll get back with you. I got to take these out because they didn't connect to the thing anyway. And
okay.
I have the speaker off so it doesn't reverb back to you. So hold on. Let me call Elvin up.
All right. So we'll let him deal with that. Josh Vegan, thank you for the hand. But MC, I mean, that's, if we could predict the future, a lot of people wouldn't be out of business right now, and one of the things that I've learned, and we'll put the 1, 2, 3 back up here. One of the things I've learned is that when rates go sky high, you have to look at what's going to be on the other side of that. You don't need to be a prophet to know that that's going to look bad when it comes down. And the problem with that this past time was when you look, like here, I'll put this on the market rates. And Jeff, just wave your hand like this when you're ready to come back on. Like here, Welford, South Carolina, Toledo, Ohio. Let's get the rate here. Okay. What you do is you scroll down and you can see the historical rates. In 2020, it was 877 for this lane. In 21, it was 1519, and in 22, it was 1771. And then it went down a little bit in 23, but here's the kicker. In 23 is when fuel jumped up quite a bit. And I told everybody that with these rates as high as they are, everything else is going to go up. Sure enough, trucks went from 160 to 180 to 220. Tolls went up about 10, 15%. Labor rates went up quite a bit. Tires went up. Fuel went up. Everybody always wants a piece of your pie. That's how this works. That's how this business works. That's how most businesses work. The government wants a piece of your pie. The tollways want a piece of your pie. The mechanics want a piece of your pie. The oil companies want a piece of your pie. And so wherever you can shave expenses, that's where your true money making is. And that and knowing opportunities and creating a niche. Now, obviously, in this lane, there's negotiation strength. Right now, it's settling at about $1.92 a mile based off of 35 reports. But as you can see, when you look at historical rates, look how volatile this is. So if you came in 2020 while this was 877 and you managed your expenses at that time, you're good to go. But if you came in when it was 1771 and thought that that was the normal, you're probably stressed right now. You're probably hurting right now. You're probably slowly going out of business or in the debt right now because you overpaid for your equipment and you didn't know that fuel was going to go up. You didn't know that, everything else is going to go up. And so it becomes mismanageable or non-sustainable. And if you guys are just now coming in, CDN said in the beginning that his brokerage told him that they are seeing that rates are 50 cents lower than what is sustainable for these carriers. So they're preparing for the mass exodus that's going to put carriers out of business with the rates being too low. And the shippers don't understand that. And it's up to the brokerages or you carriers with direct shippers to understand that. And that's what's putting a lot of contract carriers out of business is they negotiated too low and the shipper wants it lower. Next thing you know, it's not sustainable because all your costs went up. These rates that we have right now were not much different in 2018 when I first started, but you know what? The costs have come up considerably. All right, Jeff, you back? Nope. We'll let him deal with that. So, Jackknife says 22 is when fuel jumped. Okay, Chief Freight Hauler says 22 is when you fuel jump. I just bought fuel today for $2.99 a gallon in North Carolina at a TA. Right now, there's another reason fuel discounts. Lease on doing carrier right now. You have a team behind you. Yep. Josh says, be right back. So Jackknife is out with IFTA tax. And so minimizing your cost, and getting the best fuel discounts. I know most people have 3 or 4 or 5 different sources of fuel cards. There's a whole thing that you can do. So, but anyways, yeah, 22 is when we're at highest rates, but that's also when the fuel. And so a lot of people coordinate, well, they try to sit there and say, well, if fuel's up, then rates got to be up, right? That's not how it works. But the broker will tell you that. If fuel's down, they're like, well, fuel's down, so I don't have that much more room to move. So it's no wonder that some drivers will think, well, rates go up when fuel goes up. Now, fuel surcharge, that's a whole different story, a whole different ballgame, and that's within negotiating tactics. So, anyways, so there's a lot of these tools. There's a lot to this. A lot of people say, well, this complicates things. You're getting the minutia. Well, you're a business owner. This is what you need to be doing, right? You need to be projecting. You need to be accounting. You need to be being aware of your surroundings, of what's going on. So, let's see. But anyways, let's go back to Van here. And I think I'm going to end this live feed, Jeff. So, usually rates go down when fuel goes up. Yeah, I mean, that's... And look, hurricane, oh, we got to raise the fuel prices. Oh, war in Middle East, we got to raise the fuel prices. Oh, someone sneezed wrong at a plant and it blew it up. We got to raise the fuel prices. I mean, that's how it is. There's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes I'm sure there is when you get really deep into it, but the most you can do is look at your pricing, look at your card, look at where you're fueling. Like every driver that comes through Missouri, I tell them top off in Stratford or Oak Grove or Kingdom City because that's where the cheapest fuel is. All right, Jeff, have you returned? Jeff? Can you hear us, Jeff?
I get nothing, Steve.
We can hear you. We can hear you. This is why Jeff doesn't like StreamYard. He has difficulty with it. So, all right. So, I'm going to end this feed. 83 people in here. Thank you. And make sure you hit the thumbs up. Let's get this video out. And I will try to cut this one up so you don't have to watch, 2 hours of me and CDN and Jeff. So, anyways, thanks for watching. Hopefully, we'll see you again Monday, 7 a.m. as usual Central. If you want to support the channel, here's all the info. It's down here. 40065 if you want to check out the 123 low board, and also contentcreatorcoffee.com and type in Snorelord in both my brews. There's a blonde roast and there's a cowboy roast. Viking brew is the cowboy. It's a more bolder blend. So what else do I got to sell you? Oh, click on the Amazon link for the book. So, and that's it. So with that being said, have a good weekend. If you're running, be safe, be profitable. Blitz is going on, I believe, and they're going to pull you in. So they're going to pull you in for quite a while. So with that being said, oh wait, hold on. It works now. Okay. All right, Jeff.
What's going on, Steve?
Part 2. What's up?
Hey, it's StreamYard. What can we say? The little duck was causing me all kinds of problems. You know what I'm saying?
Just got to master the duck. The duck. That's the important part.
So look, anybody want the greatest coffee in the world? You got to get some Berserker brew. Look, what you do is you take them both, the Viking and the Berserker, and you mix them. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, you mix them.
So surely that's not why you're on here. You didn't want to just sell coffee for me. What's up? What's on your mind, man?
Well, first coffee, get a shirt, get a hat, and get a coffee mug. And you're set up, right? No, what's on my mind, you were talking about lease purchase stuff earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you mentioned Snyder. And I don't know about any other company. But, so this week I'm going to go look at one of those trucks and, get that taken care of. Of course, there's a sales guy calling me now because I left him a message. I said to Shannon, I said that if this guy doesn't call me back before noon, I'm going to use the guy down where she went because, this guy, once I called him about a month or so ago, he put me in the system underneath him, which I wasn't even buying a truck.
Mm-hmm.
So once you're in the system underneath somebody, the other person can't use you unless you, say that you the person, right? So it's kind of a messed up situation. You know what I mean? I don't want to, cause ripples inside of an organization, right? Between salespeople.
Right. Yeah.
I said my original sales guy is gone because they don't have the Romulus dealership anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll have to call this guy back and get this truck as fast as possible. So probably next week, I'm thinking. Get it up here and get it gone through by the shop here. That way it's
right.
100%. Yeah.
That'll make for some good YouTube, you being in the truck driving it.
Well, yeah, I'll probably do that, unless, you want to go over there and get it, but then you don't want to come to Michigan. So I guess I'll have to do it.
Well, you'll have to fly me home or get me a rental car home. Unless you want the truck to store here.
Yes, but it it would partake of going across the state line into Michigan, and you don't do that. So,
I will for a steak dinner. So.
oh, okay, I see how it is.
And money.
All right.
It'll
And
cost you. It'll cost you. So.
Well, it'll get me a little. It'll get me out of. It'll probably be like refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be good for you, man. It'll make you feel like, man, I miss this.
Yeah, I miss this. So I just lever this up and drive it myself.
And you haven't driven a truck longer than me. I mean, it's only been like 4 months for me. You know,
It's been a year
truck in
for me,
October.
right? A year. It's been a year.
A year? When did you drive?
I drove Shannon's truck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
I went and
forgot
got that truck. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I have to do the same thing. I have to rent a car. You can either go to Ohio, Indiana, or Chicago, right?
Yeah, Shannon says at Like Truck and we love working for steak.
She's getting nothing.
She's getting nothing but a hard time, right?
Yeah, she's getting a hard time. Why don't she call the repair shop up and see what's going on with that truck? But yeah, so that'll be, the third lease purchase. We'll go out, sometime in a couple of weeks. And then we'll probably look at another one shortly after. So depending on applicants, I might do 4 over the summer.
Right. And for information on that, just go to liketrucking.com and inquire. There's an email there. So
yeah, on board at liketrucking.com is where I have them send the email to. And I got a few people, I have to talk to. But I'll talk to you, off the air, of course, about some of the individuals that applied. And we can go through all of that history. And, we're going to pick the best folks, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do.
One of the things that we look at is how many times has a person changed company in their career, especially in the last 5 years. If it's over a certain amount, then we don't even give you a second glance. We have a lot of people here that were at a carrier for 1 or 2 or 3 in their entire career, and they've come over here and they've been happy, and those people are doing well. It's the people that constantly hop that has created some turnover. So we've put a like you can't be switching all the time because we're trying to avoid the people looking for the greener grass all the time when in reality it's their own operation usually. So,
yeah, the thing is, if they've been in a lease purchase, let's say, and they've been in 5 of them in the last 2 years or 3 years, it's a no-go.
Yeah,
right?
See, Truman. Yeah, Truman's a perfect example of a good driver. He's interested in the lease purchase and only worked for one company in 7 years. He was a shoo-in for here. He actually applied here, and he was going to buy my truck, but then he couldn't do the manual. So, but yeah, he's a perfect example of what we're looking for. So
right. And like this other gentleman, he's 5 years at the last company. That's a good record.
Yeah.
But, there's no way it's going to be, 3 jobs in a year or 4 jobs in 2 years, that type of thing. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
And we won't even, let's say you're an owner operator and you have your own truck, and even if you have your own trailer, and if you've been to X amount of companies in the last couple of years, won't bring you on in that aspect either.
Yeah. And that's how it has to be, because carriers get burned all the time, and they usually learn that situation the hard way. So, But no, I'm excited about this lease purchase venture you're going into.
I gotta go, Steve. I got
Okay.
3 2 phones going off. You know,
All right.
I can't do a YouTube video.
Okay, later.
Wait, see ya.
All right, that was Jeff. That's why he doesn't go live a whole lot, because his phone is nonstop. If you've ever hung out with Jeff for more than an hour, you would see that that's how he lives his life. So, but anyway, Shannon says the shop is still waiting for tire approval. Just got off phone with them. Texas Scott to help. Good deal. So, I've been out here for 28 years, currently with Advanced Trucking. Oh, okay, I know, Mr. Nottingham. I know Daniel. I miss talking to him. You know, he and I used to. It was funny. We wouldn't talk all the time on the phone when I was driving, but when we did, it was always like for an hour or 2 or 3 hours, you know. And one time, me and Christian Trucker, who's over there now, we went over there and found out that we were all in the same place. I think, and he bought me lunch over there at the TA there right outside of Indy. So, but yeah. Dan's a good guy. So, all right. So with that being said, now we're going to leave. Now we're going to end this video. So strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Aggression turns to screws. Have a good weekend, everybody. Peace.